All right. Getting into this series this game three that just wrapped up the other night. Luka and Kyrie dismantling the Clippers. The Dallas Mavericks are taking a 2-1 lead over the Los Angeles Clippers. And in this one, I just gotta speak how great Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving are manipulating the Los Angeles Clippers in this series. Luka Doncic 29 points per game, Kyrie Irving 25 points per game. And you're thinking, how are these two guys continuously going after James Harden, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Norman Powell, Terrence Mann, Ivan Zubac, who looked great in the first game. And it's just the tail of that first game. You thought the Mavericks were in trouble because you saw how much energy the Los Angeles Clippers had over the Dallas Mavericks. And after that, that game seems like 20 weeks ago compared to the last two games, how the Dallas Mavericks have been able to manipulate and increase their defensive intensity on that side the last two games, especially from Luka Doncic, who is not a defender, who doesn't get after it defensively, was able to do that in game two. Game three, he still tried a little bit, but just the ability for those guys to create those lob threats for Lively and Gafford and PJ Washington and getting that toughness from those guys that have the ability to step out on the defensive end and be able to at least try to hang with James Harden and Paul George. Paul George has been inept this series, and it's just like, not again. Russell Westbrook had a tough outing, got kicked out of the game. Looking at it from that standpoint, James Harden, it's really just him right now, and Ivan Zubac. Those guys are playing well for the Clippers. But Kawhi's coming back from injury, and you're trying to figure out how to manage to get Kawhi back into the flow of things, and looking at Kawhi Leonard and seeing, is he going to be back to 100% at some point, or even at least all-star level for the Clippers to compete? Because if he's not, and the production of Paul George is low, the production of Russell Westbrook is low, how do the Clippers compete other than James Harden just continuing to run these pick and rolls, continuing to hit Ivan Zubac for the lob threat inside, and just go crazy from three? I just don't see how the Clippers can manage a series like that. Ty Lue is one of the best at making adjustments and trying to figure it out. But while you're trying to implement Kawhi, who hasn't played in a month or two, it's going to be very, very difficult for them to find any consistency during this series. I just don't see how they can find any consistency, especially if the Dallas Mavericks are bringing up their defensive intensity, even in the lights of Luka Doncic. So to see that and see the way that Kyrie and Luka are just going at Los Angeles defensively, going at them offensively, and creating all these mismatches and getting in the lane and throwing the lob threat, getting easy buckets for their team, it's very tough to see how the Clippers can compete. And even though they are the higher seed, without Kawhi being 100%, without Kawhi being that Terminator that we usually see in the playoffs, I don't see how the Clippers can win this series. It's early. It's only game three, but the Clippers got to win game four, obviously, right? You don't want to go down 3-1. But looking at it from the standpoint of where the Clippers are right now and just the uncertainty behind Kawhi's injury, they're looking like he's gassed at times. Of course, he's trying to work his way back in on the court, but that is the biggest obstacle for the Los Angeles Clippers. How are they going to implement Kawhi back into this series to get them to a point where they can trust him long term to even potentially defend Luka Doncic or Kyrie Irving and try to give them a chance on that end? Because that's a big question too, because it's like Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. These guys are supposed to be two-way stars, supposed to be able to lock down, and now you have this injury with Kawhi. It's like, are we ever going to see this lethal lockdown defensively from Paul George and Kawhi Leonard? If there's any series that they need to do it, it's this series with Luka Doncic on the tear right now. And even when Luka Doncic isn't going crazy scoring, he's finding his teammates, he's hitting those lob threats, and that's a disaster. They can't continue to do that. That's a disaster for them. So it's going to be interesting to see what adjustments the Clippers make and see if Dallas can continue this intensity, especially on the defensive end. Been able to keep the Clippers down under 90 these past two games. And Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, if those guys can't score, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for the Los Angeles Clippers against the Dallas Mavericks.